In this video, we're going to talk about Mayhem's De Mysteriis Dom Sathanas from 1994. I wrote about this record on my blog about 4 years ago, and so I'll be reflecting on what I've written at the end of the video and if anything feels different to me now. But I got a feeling most of what I've written is probably going to hold up, because when it comes to classics, albums that are personally meaning a lot to me, like this one does, I tend to wait for that moment where I haven't listened to it in a while, I pull it out again, I get really into it, and then the writing just sort of flows out of me. So when I wrote this 4 years ago, I've got a feeling that everything that I would have said then probably kind of holds up to me today. And also I want to say this video is kind of in junction with my other channel, Xisuma Says, because there was a video made about this band, the events that happened around the creation of this record, which is a very shocking and fascinating story if ever you want to go learn about it. I wouldn't actually recommend the movie Lords of Chaos as the best way to learn about it, but I watched that movie some time ago. I aired my thoughts about it on my Xisuma Says channel, and so there's a video over there linked to this one, and that video links back and forth. You get the picture. Anyway, let's read the blog. It's one of Norwegian black metal's most iconic records from the heart of the music scene, which had exploded in the revelations of the arson and murder that surrounded key members of the Black Circle. Mayhem's founder and lead guitarist Euronymous had pioneered much of the scene's ideas and principles, running a record store and forming the band back in '84. It was a long journey to this record, but the band's name is steeped in its inspiration. Mayhem is taken from a Venom song, the band who coined the term black metal. It was Euronymous and his cronies who took the evil and satanic imagery from the cheesy to reality, as their actions mirrored the depths of darkness the music would reach. With the suicide of original vocalist dead in 1991, De Mysteriis Dom Sathanas was the subject of many setbacks and delays. Further so when Euronymous was murdered by the bassist at the time, Vargvikernes of Burzum, his bass lines remain on the record, despite drummer Hellhammer stating they were re-recorded as requested by the guitarist's parents. It was finally released after the band had officially disbanded in the wake of Euronymous' departure. Controversies aside, the record has remained as a staple in the genre's history, more so for the quality of the music, which is undoubtedly a brilliant execution of a vision so cold, bleak and anti-life it will make you shiver in the wake of its eternal darkness. The record's production is a merit to amplifying the chemistry the instruments share. Dense tonal, freezing guitars shred over lurking bass lines, while Hellhammer's restless drumming gripes blast beats and ceaseless fills sounding like cascading mountains collapsing in a cavernous reverb. His pedals thud and snare rattles in a muted setting fit for the grunt work and the toms. Crash cymbals for fills burst open with deep dense reverbs that almost feel like an additional instrument. His tireless pace and constant shuffling of the beats gives every song a rich expansiveness, as if opening another dimension for the music. He's a supremely talented drummer, and in this moment his contribution elevates the art to places difficult to measure. The guitar work is given a helping hand from Hellhammer's constant expanse as Euronymous toys with the dark, grim and bleak. Much of his guitar work could have been a little dull against blander drumming, as the droning, colourless tone of the guitar amplifies the darkness in a minimalist nature. They stare into the abyss with unforgiving tunes to conjure the gravest of images. The iconic Freezing Moon shreds the open strings of a guitar between a power chord with the same notes as Metallica's Nothing Else Matters. The distortion style gives in a chilling vibe fitting of the song's name. Strangely enough, the guitar tone has always reminded me of Ride the Lightning. Maybe it was too recorded through Marshall amps. Either way, Euronymous' vision for the guitar has shaped much of black metal to follow and steered into the darkness with a tasteful sense of metal that makes for many a moshable headbanger riffs between its unforgiving moments. His individual riffs are strong, but perhaps the best charm comes from their linear arrangement that sees many of the songs continually progress without much conventional structure. At the forefront, singer Attilia Kashir puts on an operatic marvel of disgust, a tormented performance which will polarize many listeners. For me, it clicked from day one. Attila does not sing with convention, but twists his voice like a performance art piece. He groans and growls, strains and slurs as the words are drawn from a rhythm into sprawls of forceful feeling sprouting from his mouth, performed with gristle and glare. Between its ongoing exploration of vocal range, Attila finds moments for convention, and occasionally he will hit the goosebumps with the sounds of twisted souls escaping torment through his voice. It's stunning in its moments, but it isn't always a commandeer for your attention. The lyrics, written by Dead, who would have performed them in a very different style, are buried deep in nihilism, misanthropy, and a view of life drowned in pessimism. Taken too seriously, you might find yourself in a rather bleak state of mind. The record plays through its 8 tracks, with each providing a spark of magic. The stunning Life Eternal walks us through a rather warm bass and guitar melody into a timeless stereo guitar solo that barely cuts through the mix before plunging us into complete darkness with the album's killer mosh riff. From the Dark Past has an inspired moment where the second key riff is dissected by abstract guitar noises. The way it holds over the mood for its second play is stunning. Cursed in Eternity gives me shivers every time it suddenly bursts into the pummeling blast beat and ferocious guitar riff at its ending. Then there's Buried by Time and Dust, with its ceaseless blast beat which hammers down through almost the entire song. Lastly, Freezing Moon has its unnerving lyrics leading into a form of breakdown that hammers a slow and simple 2-chord riff to eternity. Hellhammer's lively intro to the riff breaks sublimely for Attila to come in over the song. Time has served this record well. Over 20 years on and it sounds fantastic as ever, setting a benchmark that few other records have peaked where limitations have arisen. Although the sound of black metal has progressed forwards, records like this were so visionary you can still attribute a lot to them. Although released in '94 when the scene was expanding given the exposure, its music dates back a few years, making it alongside the most significant releases of that era that bridged the gap between its primitive take on evil. For me, personally, it's a deep nostalgic dive into a cold, unforgiving place that is rather exhilarating to visit, a record that demands to be listened to year after year. On a final note, a piece of trivia for you. Varg and Euronymous actually had plans to blow up the same church featured on the album cover the day of the album's original planned release date. Instead, it seems that they got into a fatal fight. So that was the blog, and reading it 4 years later makes me think that this is a moment where I've actually executed really well and set out to do what I want to do with this music blog. And I got an album that I'm really into. I love to be able to just express it through words, and these words that I found to express this record at that point in time, done brilliantly, and I'm very happy with it. Now, if you got to this part of the video and you haven't heard this record before, maybe you're curious about black metal, highly encourage you to check out this record. It is potentially frightful if you're not used to this sort of music, but it is absolutely brilliant at what it encapsulates, and one that I would very much recommend giving a good try. So maybe if you're looking for a record to pick up, this could be it. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to see some more of my music blogs, go check the website out. Every page has over 1,000 articles sorted by artist, year, genre and more. Just hit Ctrl F and have a search for something that interests you. You can find a link to the blog in the description box down below, where you'll also find links to my other YouTube channels. Check them out if you are curious. Thanks again for watching, and be sure to subscribe to catch the next upload.